Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to our show, and welcome to Thursday. We don't have a Thursday theme, but welcome to Thursday, study of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Themeless Thursday.
Themeless Thursday. I think we got to do better than that for the people. We had an idea yesterday, didn't we?
Theme Thursday.
Oh yeah, Theme Thursday. What's our theme?
No, we don't have one now, but we could do it in the future.
We're working on themes, theme-led classes. I'm leaving tomorrow, so I'm going to Phoenix tomorrow, so we have no class tomorrow. Just want to share that with everybody. For those who are eager, you're going to have to walk around the streets aimlessly like zombies. What do I do with my life?
It'll be okay.
That's how I feel when we don't have a class. And then Saturday and Sunday, I'll be in Tucson. If you're in the Tucson area, come down and say hello. I'm going to be teaching at Bhava Wellness. And I think I'm teaching at the temple there. There's a Krishna temple there. And I just want to make that a final announcements here for Kaustubha and the Wisdom of the Sages retreat. We are having it in Cali, Colombia. And we got to make some plans. It's hard to make plans with COVID, but we're going to make a plan and go to Cali, Colombia. It's a cool ashram. We're going to have Bhakti, all day Bhakti. They'll be swimming and hiking and tropical things and tropical food and vegan food. And we encourage everybody to come. We set it up special so anybody could come, basically. Not anybody, obviously, but anybody. You pay cost and then you give a donation to your teachers. It's a donation-based retreat. We thought that would be a cool idea to do it like that. And me, Kaustubha, and Mara are going to be there, and we're all excited. So you get there by going to raghunath.yoga and click on the Wisdom of the Sages Retreat button, and they'll give you all more information as well as a way to register. All right, Kaustubha. Mara, any announcements, my friend?
We have Laura Zales teaching asana at 10 a.m. today.
Laura Zales, we love her.
There's Bhakti Recovery Group meeting today, and then at noon. And then tomorrow, Kumi G's class got moved from Wednesday evenings to Friday evenings. So we still have an asana class tomorrow evening on Patreon at 6 p.m.
Okay, so that is all the Patreon members, patreon.com/wisdom of the sages. That's how you keep this boat floating, and that's how you join the little party of classes that are going on. Sadly, I'm going to have to cancel Sweet Baby Krishna. For those who are locked in tonight, because I'm traveling and got to get ready to go, for those who are making this their vow to read some Krishna Leela every day, I encourage you to do it anyway. I'm going to do it anyway, but I'm just going to do it sort of on the fly. So forgive me for that, for having to cancel that. All right, Kaustubha. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should first offer obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan. unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurunmadatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. It's happening. You guys are hearing the Bhagavatam. I'm seeing these same faces every day. Lyra Juno, Roman Ragnar. These guys are Jeffrey Ackler. Every day they're just like sitting there listening to the Bhagavatam. All that is troublesome to the heart. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam, all that is troublesome to the heart, it starts to go away. And because they are based in these gunas of Rajas and Tamas. And Rajas and Tamas starts to go away, and the sun of goodness starts to rise, and that connection connection to source, which is inherent in everyone. It's inherent in everyone. We're just like, we don't have just like there's radio waves in this room. I just don't have the receiver. If I had the radio in here, then I could pick up music from different. Sometimes if you have a radio, you can pick up music from different countries, or you can pick up.
Were you one of those kids? You tried to have one of those
ham radios? No, I didn't.
Not even ham. They had those radios where like you could just pick it up from like around the world.
I didn't have one of those, but the analogy is good. It's out there. The waves are out there. We're just not tuned in. And we always say this, you go to what you're focused on. It's really true. Whatever you're focused on, you'll discover those things. And so we get focused on our spiritual life. And you know what? Our spiritual life starts to unfold right before us. It's actually been standing right here. And I've been looking everywhere for other types of pleasure in the material world. And as soon as you tune in and do it regularly, it's on that regular practice. Excuse me. It's that regular practice, regular reading, regular chanting and meditation, that we start to come in contact with what we actually are. And then our path gets revealed to us. And my path is going to be different than Kaustubha's. It's going to be different than Mara's. And we're each going to be on a unique class. Just because we're reading the same book or even following a similar tradition doesn't mean we're going to have different circumstances. It could be completely different. But in the same way you're looking out there, guess what? Krishna is looking towards you. He's waiting eagerly. God is, in one sense, they say that the Vedas teach that God is, in one sense, cloud-like and impersonal, but also has form, also has personality, and so there is, sometimes you think, well, I'm looking towards light. Yeah, you're looking towards light, but behind the light is personality. And that personality is eager for you as you are interested. And this is the theme. That's the theme, Kaustubha, right?
There's a theme.
Say that beautiful verse for us, please.
Yeyatamam prapadyante tams tataiva bhajamyaham mama vart manu vartante manusha partha sarvashaha.
That's the theme today.
Okay. Should we give the translation?
Yeah, please.
And help people understand the theme.
Just walk around with that Sanskrit.
As all surrender unto me, Krishna's saying, I reciprocate with them accordingly. And then he says, everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha, O Arjuna. So we'll get there. Let's talk about that. Why don't we read today's verse and it'll lead in this direction.
Lead right to that. Okay. What's the verse again? 46?
Well, it's a bunch of verses squeezed, they put them all together.
43?
Yes, 43 through 45. Canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, texts 43 through 45.
Okay, great.
You see, you're doing it more like Tony Tiger this day. It's the great thing. He said, great.
Irrevocable. O Narada, although the potencies of the Lord are unknowable and immeasurable, still, because we are all surrendered souls, we know how he acts through a yoga maya potencies. And similarly, the potencies of the Lord are also known to the all-powerful Shiva. the great king of the atheist family, namely Prahlad Maharaj, Swayambhuva Manu, his wife Satarupa, his sons and daughters like Priyavrata, Uttanapad, Akuti, Devahuti, and Prashuti.
That's right. There's Akuti, Devahuti, and Prashuti are all the daughters of, I guess, of Uttanapad, right?
Of Uttanapad?
Oh no, of Swayambhuva Manu and his
Okay.
wife Satarupa.
Prashuti.
And Uttanapad
Imagine
and
naming
Priyavrata
all your
may be the
daughters and rhyming
sons.
names.
Yeah, some people do that.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah, Priyavrata and Uttanapad are the sons of Swayambhuva Manu and Satarupa, and Akuti, Prashuti, and Devahuti. Now, why didn't the sons get the rhyming names?
I don't know.
All right.
Prachini Barhi, Rabu, Anga, and the father of Vena, Maharaj Dhruva, Ikshvaku, Aila, Muchukunda, Maharaj Janak, Gadhi, Raghu. What's up? That's me. Ambarish, Sagara, Gaya, Nahusha, Mandata, Alarka, Satadanve, Anu, Ranti Dev, Bhishma, Bali, Amortaya, Dilip, Subari, Utanka, Shibi, Devala, Pipalada, Sarasvata, Udava, Parashara,
Ashara?
Burishain, Vibhishan, Hanuman, Sukadev Goswami, Arjuna, Artishain, Vidura, Shrudadev. I forgot what we were even reading.
That all of these
Who are all
people,
these people?
that Brahma is saying to his son Narada
Okay.
that although, God is unlimited, right? All that there is to know about God and the potencies through which he works, through which he creates the material world, it sustains it, all of this, it's unknowable and immeasurable. It's unlimited. But still, he says, because we've surrendered ourselves, we know how he acts through these different potencies. And he says, and not only us, but these other people who are also surrendered, who are also given their hearts, who, that
all
they
these
also
people
know.
have surrendered to Krishna.
Yeah, and if you get
God.
and if you get like the Bhagavatam family tree, it shows, because a lot of this is, second canto we started with Brahma, and we're going to hear more about him in the third canto and how how the whole creation takes place, and from him he's got his different sons who became progenitors, and then these family trees come down, and so these names, you can find them on those family trees as they come down.
I've got some favorites here. This list.
Let me guess. Let me see.
You
Hanuman.
can guess Hanuman. Yeah, that goes with it. Yeah.
Well, you probably like Bhishma a lot, right?
Yeah, I like Bhishma. I mean, I got a lot of favorites, but
Utanka.
Vibhishan.
Vibhishan, yeah.
So if you don't know who Vibhishan is, anyone out there have a crazy brother? Anyone have a crazy? I like to leave.
Hands are going up. Hands are going up.
Yeah, I got a crazy brother. Well, if you have a crazy brother, I got news for you. Your brother is definitely not as crazy as Ravana. Imagine having a brother who's a mystic, who all the demigods are scared of, who is completely ruthless. This is Ravana, and Vibhishan was born in that family. And he tried repeatedly to give good advice to his brother Ravana, and Ravana wouldn't accept him. And finally, he said, Ram and the entire army of monkeys have come to Lanka. They're about to, Hanuman has already destroyed the city. And they're saying, look, we're going to finish it off. We're going to take Sita back, and we're going to destroy your dynasty. So Vibhishan went to Ravana and just said, listen, he's here right now. I don't know what you're thinking about. One of their monkeys just burnt down our city, and now they're here with thousands of monkeys. Are you kidding? You
got to get one of their monkeys.
It's just one lady. Give her back. You have harems of women. Give this one lady back. She's married to Ram anyway. She wasn't your wife. You stole her. He said, all these ministers around you are saying, oh, you can beat anybody. He's surrounded himself with these people who are just blowing smoke up his butt. And finally, Vibhishan, I'm just telling you this as a friend, as a brother. I've always been
voice of reason.
Huh?
He was the voice of reason.
He's the voice of reason. All these other people just saying, "Yeah, you don't worry. You don't have anything to worry about. Ram, he's just a human." And then Ravana, after listening to his brother, hearing like really sober, sound advice, like how your whole dynasty is going to be destroyed over this one lady, he said, "Well, if you were anybody else, I'd kill you. but because you are my brother, I just say go wherever you like. And it's
Got
this, it's the sign of just sort of like you can't even take good advice when you're in dark consciousness. You ever get that, Mara? You got someone like, someone wants to give you good advice, but you're like, shut up.
Yep.
They come in like the Buddha and try to unload some beautiful advice on you, but you're in a stinking thinking mood.
Yep.
So anyway, he went to Ravana. I mean, I'm sorry, Vibhishan was like, all right, you want me to go? I'll go. And he went up right to Ram. And he looked at Ram and he just said, Ram. And he bowed down to Ram. And all the other
There's a
monkeys
lot of suspicion.
There's a lot of suspicion, right? They all think, oh, here comes Ravana's brother. What's he got up his sleeve?
It's
And
a
all the
trick.
monkeys were talking, but Lord Ram said, no, 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 no. He's different. And he bowed down to Ram and he put his head on Ram's feet. And
Is
he
that
said,
when Ram made that statement? Is that where you're going?
here's Hanuman. Here's Vibhishan's statement.
Okay.
My Lord Ram, I made some foolish choices in my past.
Oh,
Nancy
good
Rothman,
statement.
you're gonna love this one. Oh, no, Robert, Nancy.
Nameless.
You're gonna love. He said, Ram, I've made some foolish choices in my past, but from this moment on, I am yours. That is the mantra of today. I've made some crazy choices in my past. Anybody out there fit that can check that box? Is it yeah? Please come on, Elizabeth. You're the only. Thank you, Aclergy. Thank you. Anybody, Ariana, ever make a mistake? Never. Okay. We've made some foolish choices in my past, but from this moment on, I am yours. Now, people don't like the idea of humility and being humble and bowing down like Vibhishan did. In our culture, bowing down means we have to fear that the guy we're bowing down to is not grinding his foot into our skull. That trust of Ram doesn't do that. Ram lifts you up. You surrender to Ram, he lifts you up. He lifted Vibhishan up and he embraced Vibhishan. And he said, you're with me now. Your past is over. Isn't that great to know that at any moment, whatever you did, your past is over. But you got to stop living your past. You can't just say, okay, but I'm going to dip back into my past a little. You have to once you give up your past, you got to give up your past. You can't just say, I'm going to keep a little of my past. Your past is over, let it be over. And then you get that full embrace from Ram. And you can turn your life around in a minute, and that is good news. That's the good news, brothers and sisters. So that's why I like Vibhishan. He fully surrendered. He became the king of Lanka.
That's where my wife grew up.
That's right. Isn't that cool? Kaustubha's wife grew up in Lanka.
Born and raised.
You got a favorite in this list?
Oh, a favorite. Well, let's see.
You better say Raghu.
There you go.
Come on.
I mean, Devahuti's great. Like when we get to her chapter there in the her chapters.
Want to give a little trailer of Devahuti?
Well, she's actually the mother of an avatar, right? She's the mother of Kapila Dev, and she asks just great chapters about bhakti. It really just starts to pour out. She's totally surrendered and simple living at that stage in her life, and
I wonder if you gave birth to if a mother gave birth to 3 children, and one of them's an avatar. Would you favor that one?
Probably a little. And
leave your brother alone. He's an avatar.
Then there's Lord Shiva. I mean, he's a favorite, right?
Yeah.
Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu. He's the greatest of the Vaishnavas, it said. Dhruva,
Sure. Yeah, these are great.
What about Utanka? What's he known for? I know
Utanka.
I know he's known for some, but it's not coming to me. Maybe we got
Well, we have
Arvind,
Sukadeva Goswami,
Arvind could
Arjuna.
help
We
with
all love Arjuna.
Oh,
Vidura.
Sukadeva Goswami, Arjuna, yeah. I mean,
Truthfully,
come on.
Vidura.
Vidura.
He's one of my favorites of this whole list.
Yeah.
All right,
So
you
many.
want to read the purport, or you want to glorify these people? It's
We
isn't it nice to
just spend the
read
day.
them and glorify them and appreciate them?
Yeah, well, there's Prachini Barhi. He's going to come up in the 4th canto, right? He'll get instructions from Narada. Great stuff there. Ishvaku, he heads up a whole dynasty, right? Lord Ram appears in his dynasty.
It's time to share that to the degree that we want Krishna.
Yeah.
He's just waiting for us. If you think sometimes we want spirit, God, Krishna, we want him a little. If you want Krishna a little, guess what? He wants you a lot. He's like that eager to reclaim us. I always use this analogy. It's a little an analogy people can sometimes relate to. Like if you are if you're a parent, you can probably relate to this. If you have a daughter that is going through trouble, and she's 14 years old or 15 years old, and she's hanging out with the wrong crowd, and all of a sudden, a moment ago, she was your sweet little girl, and then she's just sort of like trying to find herself and going out and coming home late. And when you try to question her, she's sort of like, leave me alone, goes up into her room, and you don't know how to deal with her. Do you chastise her? Do you try to be extra loving? And, if you've ever had a teenager going through these phases, or if you were one of those teenagers going through one of these phases, and then all of a sudden she just doesn't come home one night, like the parent is losing it. Like, where's my daughter? Where's my daughter? And maybe she doesn't come home for a week. What does a parent do with that? They become almost devastated. Someone said, hey, I saw your daughter on the street. She didn't look so good. Where is she? And the mother is just crying. She can't sleep at night. I mean, what parent could sleep at night if their children were gone? Nobody. So sometimes in like a little crack of like mental sobriety, the child drunk, laying in Tijuana in the street, picks up the cell phone and calls the mother at midnight. Mother picks up the phone, right? The mother can't sleep. Mother picks up the phone, right? Always fearful. What is this phone call going to lead to? Is my daughter alive? Is she dead? Is she in jail? Gets this call, and the daughter just says, Mom, I made some stupid mistakes. I want to come home. Mom, I made some foolish mistakes. I want to come home. What would a good mother say? Right? The good mother would lose their mind. Where are you? Where are you? I'm going to come right there right now. Where are you? What do you need? Despite whatever the child has done, that little desire, that little statement by the child, that isn't even done in like sobriety. They're just like disturbed and feeling reckless, and remembers the mother and wants to reach out, but borrows someone's cell phone. But that little effort to reconnect, the mother is all over it. That is Krishna's relationship with us. You make a little step towards Krishna. I think I need more spirituality in my life. And I think everybody on the Zoom at least has, and some of the others, yes, the others also. But if you've been listening to this on a regular basis, we've had some experience where we're like, I need some spirituality in my life. Then all of a sudden, the gates open. There is like a channel to the spiritual world. Books show up in your house that have been there for 30 years you've never read. You meet some person. You meet an old friend. You meet some community. And they just, the gateways of heaven start opening, and floods of spiritual information start coming towards you just by making a little statement like, oh, Ram, from this moment on, I'm yours. Please direct me. My old life is over. That type of step towards God, spirit, love, truth changes the whole trajectory of our life. And basically by showing up, and people might say, well, how do you do that? You're doing it. If you're listening to this show, there's thousands of other podcasts. We're in the midst of a whole political thing going on. You can just dive into those, get lost in those. After you turn off those podcasts, trust me, you will feel miserable. No one feels good after listening to politics. Nobody. I don't care what side you're on. But by hearing this, by showing up and hearing this podcast instead of other ones, or opening any spiritual book, that is a way of showing I want to move forward in my spiritual life. And you've set a domino effect. And if you think you're interested in Krishna, I got news for you. Krishna is sitting like this with his little chin and his little baby-like hands. And he's waiting by the phone, one of those old phones, fashion phones. He's waiting for you to call. Pick up the phone, call Krishna, and he will be eagerly waiting for you. What do you think about that, Kaustubha?
Well, we spoke of the word surrender yesterday on the show, right?
Yeah.
And so, I think what you're sharing now maybe kind of captures the essence of what's meant in this context by the word surrender. Like, say you are not the mother, but you're the child, right? You're the daughter in this case. And, you have your own plans of how you're going to live and enjoy your life. You have your rebellion and you have your ideas of how I can make it on my own and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And the whole thing collapses, right? And then at a certain point, you have the humility to admit this isn't working.
Mm.
And then you turn back, and that's the surrender, right? Like, okay, I surrender. I had my plan. My plan is not going to work. I surrender. And so that turning, that change of heart, that turning back is really what the entire yoga path is just leading for us to do. It's really, that's what it's meant to lead us to, is that we turn back, right? And that's why, and I've shared this in the past, and I won't go into it in depth right now, but I see that if the Bhagavatam is the culmination of all of Vyasadev's works on yoga philosophy and how to live, and the 10th canto is the highest part of that, and then within the 10th canto, the verses on the Rasa Leela, Krishna's dance, that's really like the pinnacle of everything, right? Of all the yoga teachings, it's in that Rasa Leela. And what happens is that Krishna goes out and he plays his flute, and under the full moon, and all the gopis hear it, all the girls hear it, and the girls come running out, and they just turn their back on their families, on their homes, on their responsibilities, on everything, on that whole material life, you could say. And they come out to Krishna. Krishna says, "What are you doing here? What are you doing out here in the middle of the night? Find a boy. This is not right at all. You should all turn around and go back." And they say to him, more or less, they say to him, "We've given up on all of that, right? We've turned our back on thinking that we're going to find any happiness without you, right? We may try to find happiness in so many ways in this world. Surrender means I'm turning back, right? I'm turning back to you." And so those prayers, those verses that the gopis say, I see as the pinnacle of the entire, of everything that Vyasa gave, from the Vedas and the Upanishads, et cetera, et cetera. It's all just about turning back. That's called surrender. And what in this commentary, which is largely about how ultimately God is unknowable. You can't measure him with your material instruments and all of that, because they're just limited. You're trying to measure something that's unlimited with instruments that are limited. It won't work. But that if you surrender, if you turn back, then everything can be revealed to you. And so the final sentence of this commentary, Srila Prabhupada says, "The Lord is unlimited, and by the grace of the yoga maya, of his internal energy." There's the maya that covers us, and then there's the maya that reveals, right? The energy that covers and the energy that reveals. So yoga maya is revealing. And so he says, by the grace of yoga maya, it helps the surrendered soul to know him. And then he uses this phrase, proportionately with the advance of one's surrender. So the more complete that we are in that conviction that I don't want anything but that reconnection, right? That's what life, that's what the whole world is. This is the way the Bhakti-yogi sees the entire world, that it's all moving, all the events in my life, they're moving in such a way to bring me to that realization. I should turn back, I should surrender. And then we surrender at different levels. And that's what's meant here by proportionately, And maybe for that, we could look at that that Gita verse 411.
Yeah, do you have that verse up?
I do. So again, it's an often quoted verse, Ye yata mam prapadyante, as all surrender unto me, tams tataiva bhajam yuham. I reciprocate with them accordingly. Proportionately.
You get what you put in.
Yeah. And then he says this really interesting statement. He says, Mama vart manu vartante, manusya parthasarvashaha. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha.
There's always a fear of moving closer, because sometimes moving closer means you're letting go of something you're sort of attached to. there's always like a fear of moving closer to Krishna because, like, well, what if it's not good? What if in the moving forward I'm going to miss out on something?
Hmm.
To the degree that I've moved closer to Krishna, I've never felt I've missed out on anything. Matter of fact, I feel like I get more. I get so much more. What do you think? You have that experience?
That's been my experience.
It's been my experience. As you
Yeah.
move closer, you actually get more, and even if you're not getting more stuff, you're getting more fulfilled with whatever you got.
Sure.
I never feel without.
Yeah, you never feel like you're lacking anything.
I missed out on life.
Yeah.
No, my life has been so full
Right.
in bhakti.
Uh,
I have no
Now,
regrets.
now this second part of the verse, everyone follows my path in all respects. This really requires some discussion, right?
Yes, what does that mean?
Because there's a saying, an Indian saying, "Yata mata tata pata." You familiar with that one? You know
That one?
Yes.
I don't know that one. Yata mata tata papa
Pata.
pata.
Yata mata tata pata. That as many, it literally, like, what it means is, as many men, there are that many paths, right? As many people, there are that many paths, and with the implication that they all lead to God, that there are unlimited paths to God.
Okay.
And that's a statement, like, there's a truth in it, but it's more nuanced than just, like, there's a feeling in that statement that feels good to a lot of people, I think, right? It
Yeah.
feels like the
Although
opposite of
it feels like you could do anything then, because we know that's not true, because there's people that are on crazy paths, and that doesn't lead to God. Or you could say,
yeah.
well, it leads to their own. You could say, well, does heavy drugs like crack, heroin, cocaine, does that lead to God? That's a path.
Well,
You could say in one sense, yeah, because you get so burnt out or you die or you hit rock bottom that it's the long way to God. It's like eating a samosa with your hand wrapped around your neck and putting it in your mouth. You're eating it, but it's a very long way to eat it. Is that what they mean by that?
well, there's that. I was thinking, and that's there. In other words, let's say one could hear that statement. As many people there are that many paths. They're all good. They're all equal. There's no difference, and that's, it has a feeling that's maybe very opposite to a lot of the religious dogma that's been fed to us in life that we've wanted to reject. Right? This is the only way. Everybody else goes to hell. Whatever, that kind
Right.
of thing. Right? Oh, I like that idea better. Right?
Sure.
That all the paths are good, and there's a truth in that, but it's more nuanced, and that's the way, we generally tend to swing from one side to the other, and we don't have the, sometimes we lack the ability to say, okay, maybe they are valid in one sense, but at the same time there's still differences.
Right.
And so therefore this verse is saying, in one sense, this verse is kind of like hitting it right on the spot, where it's saying that everyone's following the path to God in one sense, but at the same time, they're getting there's a reciprocation that's proportionate to their level of surrender, right? So in that sense, there's a difference. And the way that well, let's read the commentary. But before we read the commentary, the way that Srila Prabhupada is going to explain this, in the way that a lot of the great teachers explain this verse, is that people are doing different things in this world. Some people are trying to enjoy the material things of this world, right? And Krishna reciprocates with them through the law of karma, accordingly, right? If you're generating good karma, then proportionately to that, you're going to be rewarded with experiences of, the good things in life, right? Some people recognize that, what, there's more to life than that. I actually want something higher, something spiritual, something transcendental. And so then one begins to do other, yogic or path, the path of Jnana Yoga, or the path of mystic yoga. Let's say the path of Jnana Yoga, path of renunciation. I want to find peace. I want to merge into the oneness. Now that Krishna said that the Brahman effulgence, right? The divine light, Krishna saying that's actually me. So in one sense, they're coming to me. The materialist is coming to me because I'm the person that rewards all of their material
Right.
desires, right? The transcendentalists, like say the Jnana Yogi, they don't know, they don't know that they're approaching sweet, chubby little baby Krishna. They're trying to approach that divine light, which they see as everything. But Krishna's like, that divine light is me too. Brahmano hi pratishtaham, the Brahman effulgence, that's actually, I'm the basis of that, right? So they're following his path, although it's a less direct path, and it kind of ends at a certain point, right? It's incomplete, but it's still his path. And then the yogi may want, mystic powers, ultimately Krishna is the one that's rewarding, them and providing, their mystic power. So he's saying everyone's following my path, but only the one and he's going to reciprocate accordingly. But those that know him, that are surrendered, just like, and if we go back to that phone call, okay, you know what? I've tried materialism. I've tried merging into the Brahma-jyoti, even that was dissatisfying. I've tried mystic powers. Ultimately, Krishna, I want you, right? Because divine love is really at the very essence of my being. And I'm never going to find that Atma supersidity where the Bhagavatam begins until I reconnect. So I've had enough, I've been running around this universe too many lifetimes without finding any satisfaction. I'm ready to turn back. I want to center my life around that divine source, and as a person. And so maybe that'll help as we read this commentary. We can see what Prabhupada said. Shall I read it?
A 411.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have it open.
Okay. So this is what Prabhupada says. He says, everyone is searching for Krishna. Just even that right there, right?
That's a great statement. Everybody's searching.
I think that's actually how George Harrison, he wrote the introduction to the Krishna book.
That's how he opened it. That's right.
Yeah, everyone is searching for Krishna, but they don't necessarily know it, right? So everyone is searching for Krishna in the different aspects of his manifestations. So he's got different manifestations, the Brahman effulgence. He's got the super soul within the heart. Some of the yogis are searching for that. He'll reciprocate on that level, right? Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is partially realized by his impersonal Brahma-jyoti or effulgence, and as the all-pervading super soul dwelling within everything, including the particles of atoms. So 3 manifestations of Krishna are Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, right? Brahman meaning the divine light. Paramatma meaning a form of Lord Vishnu within the heart of every living being and also even within every atom. And then Bhagavan meaning Krishna as the person. Right? So he says, but Krishna is fully realized. So I'll read it again. That he's partially realized in his impersonal Brahma-jyoti, effulgence. He's also partially realized as the all-pervading supersoul dwelling within everything, including the particles of atoms. But Krishna is fully realized only by his pure devotees, only by those who say, I just want you, I just want to serve you, I want to love you. And that's, I'm turning my back on everything. Nothing else will be completely fulfilling. Consequently, Krishna is the object of everyone's realization. And thus anyone and everyone is satisfied according to one's desire to have him. In the transcendental world also. So he's saying within the material realm, Krishna is responding according to how you respond to him, right? If I want the material things of this world, he's going to provide them. If I want to merge into the Brahma-jyoti, he can provide that. If I want...
Not necessarily, if you don't mind me butting in here.
Yeah.
If you want things of the material world, what Krishna is allowing you is enter into the material world. And the material world is filled with the gunas and your karma and the ups and downs of the material world. So you say, yeah, I want the things of this material world. Okay. Then you might get some of those things in the material world, and you will also get loss that comes with getting material things. Sure. And you will get gain again, and then you will get loss. So the option is not just like, I want everything. Okay, here's everything. It is you will get that material realm of
you enter into the system.
The system. You're in the system.
Put them through the system, but I think we could assume that all of us, through our many lifetimes, have gone through all the ups and downs, right? In one life, we're enjoying in the heavens. In the next life, we're suffering down on the earth or in the lower planets, and we're moving up and down and bouncing around. So you get that experience, and ultimately it's being provided. All of that is, you're following his path because he's the only one that can provide it. But because the level of your surrender is so low, you're getting a low grade kind of experience.
Yeah.
So that's, he's saying, so that's one way that Krishna's reciprocating. Now he's going to go on to the more esoteric level, how he reciprocates according to your desire. And this is in terms of rasa, right? He says, Krishna, in the transcendental world also, so in the spiritual realm, Krishna reciprocates with his pure devotees in the transcendental attitude, just as the devotee wants him. How does Krishna want him? Or how does Raghunath want him?
Sweet baby
Tiny
Krishna.
little,
Tiny little baby, chubby little baby.
8 pounds, 6 ounces. One devotee may want Krishna as the supreme master, another as his personal friend, another as his son, and still another as his lover. Krishna rewards all the devotees equally according to their different intensities of love for him. In the material world, the same reciprocation of feelings are there, and they're equally exchanged by the Lord with the different types of worshipers. The pure devotees, both here and in the transcendental abode, associate with him in person and are able to render personal service to the Lord and thus derive transcendental bliss in his loving service. And as for those who are impersonalists, they're on another path. Yata mata tata pata. In one sense, they're all paths leading to him. In that sense, it's true. But there's a difference, right? The reciprocation will be different. As for those who are impersonalists and who want to commit spiritual suicide by annihilating the individual existence of the living entity, merge into the oneness, Krishna helps also by absorbing them into his effulgence. Such impersonalists do not agree to accept the eternal blissful personality of Godhead. Consequently, they cannot relish the bliss of transcendental personal service to the Lord, having extinguished their individuality. Some of them, who are not firmly situated even in the impersonal existence, return to the material field to exhibit their dormant desires for activities. In other words, they want the material things again.
Yeah.
They are not admitted into the spiritual planets, but they're again given a chance to act on the material planets. For those who are fruitive workers, the Lord awards the desired result of their prescribed duties. As for the Yagyeshvar, right? So the materialists, they let me do good and I'll receive good, and he's the one that rewards it as the Yagyeshvar. And those who are yogis seeking mystic powers are awarded such powers. In other words, everyone is dependent for success upon his mercy alone. And all kinds of spiritual processes, all the different paths of yoga, are but different degrees of success on the same path.
I love this concept of even if you want to merge with Krishna, you want to, experience some type of mukti or impersonal liberation.
Yeah.
It's temporary in the sense because the jiva inherently doesn't just want a relief from pain. It wants love. Love is better than just feeling good. Right? It's like being on the beach is very nice. It's pleasant. It's warm. It's a cool breeze. If it gets too hot, you go in the water. It affects your mind. But there's something different with relationship. And the jiva, the spirit soul, the atma, the soul, whatever you want to call it, wants reciprocating love. So it will even leave that Brahman realization, that very high place where we're not even of this world anymore, to come back to find where is love. That is why this has been referred. Well, that's why Bhakti is considered the topmost yoga system, because there's nothing after love. Love is the final. It's the final stop on the line.
Right.
And if you don't find it with Krishna, you'll just find it in the material world somewhere. But then you suffer when that love is taken away, or when that love is broken, you break your heart, or somebody dies. So all that love of the material world is understandable, but first that authentic connection, the original connection, has to be made. And that's where the Bhagavatam is always pushing us towards. You're not going to get an otherworldly bliss. That's not going to last. You're definitely not going to get bliss of this material world, because everything isn't temporary. First, find your real connection with your source. Once that connection's there, then the whole material world, you'll see it for what it is. It'll your love and your family and your job and your workplace and your circle of friends will have more significance. You can contribute to that community even more, but you have to become connected first and foremost.
Right.
And it's the very inherent nature of who you are. And after getting a little taste of this, like a lot of us here have, we have a little taste
Little
of,
taste.
of something, a little taste of that spiritual love. No other taste will be the same.
Mm.
It's like if you eat a very, in India they have so many good sweets. You got a
Yeah.
favorite? You got a favorite sweet, Kaustubha?
Oh, where to start? It depends. If it's a cold day, give me a hot jalebi.
Hot
That'll
jalebi.
work.
Jalebis are good.
You
So
know,
you got a hot jalebi. A jalebi, for those who are um,
unfamiliar,
don't know,
the uninitiated.
I don't even know how they came up with this type of sweet. It looks like a pretzel, but it's hollow, and it's soaked in syrup, and it's orange. What is a jalebi?
It's a fermented batter. I can't
It
remember.
doesn't sound good right there. For an American, they're like, oh,
And then you deep fry that, like you kind of like squeeze it, through a tube,
one of those
like a
sweet-
pretzel shape into deep frying it in ghee, ideally.
It's a Fibonacci spiral, Arvind says.
Yeah.
It can be, yes.
And then it's soaked in a sugary syrup with saffron. And then if you have that really good and hot, then when you bite into that, it's both crispy and soft. And then it just oozes the hot ghee flavored with saffron, just like down your throat and into your chest. It warms you all up. It's really good stuff.
It's really powerful. Now, if you eat something, so back, I could just dive off on Indian sweets for a while.
Okay.
But my point was, if you eat something very sweet, like the gulab jamun, jalebi, and then someone offers you something like para or sandesh, which is not.
Oh, I mean, sandesh is
super
another
sweet.
favorite.
But
it's a different.
I know. Hold on one second here.
Okay.
And the sandesh, though, it's not as sweet. It's a little bit more subtle.
Yeah.
And it's got some saffron in there and some cardamom in there. If you eat the sweet one first, the other one, which is delicious, you can't even taste it.
Right.
That's the thing about sweets. If you eat
Okay.
the sweeter thing first, the lesser sweet. So in Bhakti, what happens is, here's my analogy.
Okay. So you eat the sandesh first, and then you gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay, but anyway,
you have to have an order of your sweets.
yeah.
Or you drink something in between to clear the palate, shake up the etch-a-sketch and then start over. But what happens is, in Bhakti, you get a very, very sweet taste that you can't even describe. And some people have that. They have that. They're sitting in a circle in a cold room and they're chanting and they're having some incredible experience. It's not because of, they have a beautiful chair to sit on, or it's a beautiful weather out, or they're in a tropical place. They're in a weird, peculiar place, but they're having some spiritual experience.
Right.
And they're trying to explain it to somebody, and they can't. So a lot of us have had some peculiar experience with Bhakti, where like, this is so meaningful, I can't even explain it. It's got nothing to do with an external environment or who I'm with. I'm not with somebody famous, say, or I'm not in a beautiful place, but I'm having some experience. After you taste that jalebi of that sweet experience, nothing can match it again. Even the best material experience, you can have that incredible tropical experience. We all go right to the tropics already. Even material adventure, and it just really boils down to like a big deal. Can I share something? I was what do you call it? After I was a monk, I was trying to find myself. Who am I? It's a tricky thing. When you're sort of single and you're sort of like, what do I do? How do I find how do I find how to move in this material world? And my band was moving and doing stuff. And I remember our band did some snowboarding events where they gave us free. I never snowboarded or skied. We never had that type of money to go on that expensive sport. But they gave us free snowboards and free gear to play this big thing in the Swiss Alps. So I learned how to snowboard in a weekend. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to get into snowboarding. It's healthy. It's outside. And after living, and it was like right after I was a brahmachari for like, brahmachari life or monk life is like, it's intense bhakti all day long. So here I am in my snowboard outfit on the top of a mountain. I went alone. I just would snowboard alone. And I'm at the top of this mountain. And it was beautiful. If you live in a cold place, to be outdoors when it's very cold out, but because you have snowboard gear on, you feel sort of warm. But you feel like, yeah, I'm outdoors. So I felt outdoor. I felt connected. I'm in a beautiful place. I'm like sort of alone. I feel very healthy right now. I'm doing something cool. It still boiled down. Everything was perfect. It still boiled down to, big deal. I'm going down a hill. Big deal. You know, it's just sort of like, here it is, the most perfect, beautiful situation. And it was still like I had to compare it to that sweetness.
Because it wasn't,
Bhakti.
that's the point. Because it wasn't nearly as sweet.
It wasn't nearly as sweet. And it was perfect. It was very perfect. You know what I mean? My band was popular. I had some money in the bank. You know, I had a beautiful situation. I'm alone on a mountaintop. I have brand new gear on. And it was just like, big deal.
You had tasted the jalebi.
I tasted the jalebi. And now nothing will be the same.
Oh my God, where is that one from? What was that?
It's from this, I think it's from
Pippin? Is that Pippin?
it's an old commercial for like perfume or something,
Oh.
which is probably taken from, she touched me, put his hand on mine, and then he touched me. He touched me. Something like that. Nothing will be the same after that. And if you've got that sweet taste of Krishna jalebi sweetness, nothing in the material world will be the same. And I'm so sorry for you, but it's over. Your material life is over. Good morning.
Thank you for sharing that, Reverend.
I mean, we've all had that big deal experience, I think. Once you get that taste of bhakti, it's like, all right, big deal.
And you know, and that's kind of maybe to wrap things up, you know, getting back just to this sentence that Prabhupada made, he said, all kinds of spiritual processes are but different degrees of success on the same path, different degrees of sweetness, you could say, right? And so when you've tasted that sweetness of bhakti, the other paths are valid, the other paths are connected, but they're different degrees of success on the same path. And until you get to the end of the path, you're never completely satisfied.
Ooh.
And that's where you find your Atma Supersidity, right? The complete satisfaction of soul. That's where Bhagavatam starts. And that's how the whole Bhagavatam helps us understand how to get there.
That's a nice way to wrap that up.
All right. We got tomorrow off.
We get a day off.
Day off. What is that?
Weird. But I don't get to sleep in. I got to wake up even earlier.
All right.
Thanks,
I
everybody,
getcha.
for joining us. You're doing it. You're showing up. You're hearing the Bhagavatam every day. And you know what? Sometimes you miss it. And you know what? Due to podcasts, you can go back and you can double up on the days that you miss. You know what I mean? You can put some transcendental information in your ears. I hope I'm transcendental enough for you guys, because I can, so, you know, sometimes I veer off into crazy land. And some of you might be thinking, will he just read the Bhagavatam, please? Forgive me for any offenses. Please forgive me for any offenses, any shortcomings. Thanks for everybody. I'm grateful for everybody, for my spiritual path, to have accountability every day. It's all about a spiritual community that raises the bar for who you are in this world. I really want to thank Montgomery for dancing, Little Luke and Big Luke, Big Luke and Little Montgomery. And thanks for everybody for joining us regularly on Zoom. If you want to join Zoom, you email Mara. It's questions and answers day too. You can throw in a question there.
Raghu,
wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Yes, Prabhu.
it appears that Montgomery is our youngest listener now.
Uh-oh, Montgomery, Gopi, what's going on? Montgomery, you're the youngest. But